It was a cold December night when Mark and his girlfriend Emily were driving to visit her family for the holidays. The interstate stretched endlessly before them, flanked by dense forests on both sides. They had been driving for hours when hunger forced them to pull off at a dimly lit diner. The diner was the only establishment for miles, its flickering neon sign reading * open 24 hours. *. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and fried food. The place was nearly empty except for an old man seated at the counter and a waitress cleaning tables. Mark and Emily chose a booth near the window, but something about the place felt off. The old man at the counter kept glancing at them, his eyes cold and piercing. When their food arrived, Emily whispered, "I think we should leave after eating. This place gives me the creeps." As they ate, Mark noticed the old man scribbling something on a napkin. Suddenly, he got up, walked past their table, and slid the napkin onto their booth. Without a word, he exited the diner and disappeared into the night. Mark unfolded the napkin to find a chilling message: "Don't trust the waitress." Confused and unnerved, they looked toward the waitress, who was now watching them intently. Mark decided to step outside to check on their car, leaving Emily alone for a moment. When he returned, Emily was gone, and the waitress was nowhere to be seen. Panicked, Mark searched the diner and called out for Emily, but there was no response. Then, he noticed a door behind the counter slightly ajar, leading to the kitchen. As he pushed it open, a metallic smell hit him, and he saw a trail of blood leading to a freezer. Inside the freezer, he found Emily unconscious but alive, tied up among stacks of frozen meat. He quickly untied her and called the police, who later arrested the waitress for multiple disappearances in the area. Moral: always trust your instincts when something feels wrong, especially in isolated places. Jake was a truck driver who had been on the road for over 12 hours, battling fatigue. He decided to stop at a small gas station in the middle of nowhere to refuel and stretch his legs. The station was eerily quiet, with only one dim light illuminating the pumps. As he walked inside to pay, the cashier, an older man with a weathered face, greeted him. "You're not from around here, are you?" the man asked, his voice low and raspy. Jake shook his head and handed over his card, eager to get back on the road. While waiting, Jake noticed a bulletin board near the counter with missing persons flyers pinned to it. One of the flyers caught his eye, a young woman with a haunting smile. The name and face looked familiar, but he couldn't place where he'd seen her before. The cashier handed Jake his receipt and said, "Be careful out there. Things aren't always what they seem." Shrugging off the comment, Jake returned to his truck, but as he started the engine, he felt a chill run down his spine. In the rearview mirror, he saw the young woman from the flyer sitting in his back seat. Jake spun around, but the seat was empty. Thinking it was a hallucination from exhaustion, he decided to rest for a while before driving. As he dozed off, he heard soft tapping on his window. When he opened his eyes, the woman was standing outside, her face pale and her eyes hollow. She mouthed something he couldn't hear, but her expression was one of terror. Jake bolted from his truck, running back to the gas station for help. The cashier was gone, and the station was completely dark. When the police arrived hours later, they informed Jake that the station had been abandoned for years. They also revealed the young woman had been murdered at that very spot, her killer never found. Moral: the past has a way of lingering, especially in places where tragedy strikes. Karen was driving home after visiting friends in another state when a sudden storm forced her to pull over. She spotted a small, run-down motel with a flickering vacancy sign and decided to stay the night. The clerk, a gaunt man with a crooked smile, handed her a key and said, "Room 7. Don't open the window." Karen found the warning odd but assumed it was due to the storm. The room was basic but clean, with a single bed and a small TV. Exhausted, she locked the door and settled in, but an uneasy feeling crept over her. As she lay in bed, she heard faint scratching noises coming from the window. Ignoring the clerk's warning, she got up and pulled back the curtain slightly. Outside, she saw nothing but darkness and sheets of rain. The scratching grew louder, now accompanied by a low, guttural growl. Terrified, Karen backed away from the window and called the front desk, but no one answered. Suddenly, the window shattered, and a figure lunged into the room. Karen screamed as the figure, a man with wild eyes and filthy clothes, pinned her down. Using all her strength, she kicked him off and ran into the hallway, banging on other doors for help. None of the doors opened, and the hallway felt unnaturally quiet. She made it to the lobby, but it was empty, and the storm outside had stopped completely. When she turned to look at the motel sign, it was gone, replaced by an overgrown lot. Karen later learned the motel had burned down years ago, the victims killed by an escaped convict hiding there. Moral: curiosity can sometimes lead to danger. Trust warnings even if they seem strange. These stories remind us that isolation can magnify danger, whether it's human or supernatural. Pit stops, often seen as moments of respite, can quickly turn into nightmares. The next time you stop during a journey, remember, not every door is meant to be opened.